I would like to welcome everyone to the Monroe Planning Commission's regular meeting for Monday, February 9th, 2026. It is 7 p.m. And Hannah, can you please do roll call?
I'd be happy to. Commissioners present in establishing a quorum: Commissioners Balk, Lockhart, Lowe, and Walsh. Commissioner Dawkins is excused.
Thank you, Hannah. We do not have any members of the public who are signed up for public comment this evening, so we will go ahead and move on to agenda item 4.1, which is approval of the January 12th, 2026 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the Planning Commission's minutes of January 12th, 2026.
I'll second that.
Thank you for the motion, Tony, and thank you for the second, Carla. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Nope. All right, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to agenda item 5.1, which is a public hearing for step housing and co-living housing code amendments. So I will now open the public hearing, and I invite Anita Marrero to present to us tonight.
Thank you. I'm just gonna pull up my PowerPoint for you. Oh, sorry. I pressed the wrong button.
Recording in progress.
Oh, let me mute. Turn this down. Okay, I think that will work. I'm gonna send a request to share. Okay, here we go. Good evening, Planning Commission. I'm here to present the public hearing for the step housing and co-living housing code amendments. I was here before the commission last month, and I did give you an overview of the proposed code amendments, but I will go ahead and go through that again, and feel free to stop me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer. Cities are required to allow step housing in certain zones. Step housing refers to emergency shelters, transitional, emergency, and permanent supportive housing. Step requirements were implemented to meet the unique needs of individuals, families, unaccompanied youth, seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, and other groups who are at the greatest risk of losing their housing due to the high cost of housing and the availability of affordable housing units. House Bill 1998 requires cities and counties planning under the GMA to adopt development regulations allowing co-living housing as a permitted use on any lot located within an urban growth area that allows at least 6 multifamily residential units, including on a lot zoned for mixed-use development. Co-living housing is a residential development with sleeping units that are independently rented and lockable, provide living and sleeping space, which residents share kitchen facilities with other units in the building. HB 1998 requires subject cities and counties to adopt or amend co-living housing standards and to incorporate these into development regulations and zoning regulations by December 31st of 2025. This was accomplished by going through the interim ordinance process, and City Council adopted interim housing ordinance number 030/2025 on November 18th of 2025, and that is included in your agenda packet. Using the interim ordinance process allows the city to adopt the ordinance now while staff continues to work on the permanent ordinance, which will go through the standard code amendment process. These regulations are then in effect for 6 months. So just to give you a quick update on this, interim ordinances also require that a public hearing at council be scheduled within 60 days of adoption. Was trying to get that, the permanent ordinance through before we had to do that public hearing. Kind of missed that deadline by a couple weeks. So I will have to do another interim ordinance for, it'll be the exact same thing, just a new interim ordinance that I'm taking to city council tomorrow night. The city already does allow for step housing under the uses of community housing services and permanent supportive housing, but they are not currently allowed in all required zones per state mandate. Co-living housing is not currently an allowed use, therefore it must be added. So this just goes through the proposed code changes, proposing to add a definition for co-living housing since the code currently does not have one, allowing co-living housing in the required zones, which is multifamily residential zone and mixed-use zones. Then going down to step housing, we need to add these in the following zones: tourist commercial, limited open space, and general commercial. This is our current definition for community housing services, and as you can see in the definition, it does include emergency shelters and transitional housing. Permanent supportive housing is also currently defined in the code, and it is on the screen. If you would like me to leave it up for a little bit, I can, but I will just go ahead and go through. These are just some examples of our land use tables. So step housing, as far as permanent supportive housing and transitional housing, these are required to be in all zones that allow residences or hotels. So in the left screenshot, this is the land use table for single family residential. There's no changes proposed to this. The code already does allow permanent supportive housing as a permitted use in R7 and R15. Community housing services, which includes the other types of step housing, is a conditional use under R15. So what that would look like in the community would be if a development came in, they would have to build, or they can do these types of projects in an existing house, but that's what it would look like from the outside, because that's what is allowed in single family. So single family allows for detached housing and attached housing. So if a development came in, they're probably looking at an already established single family home, and if they meet the requirements per the definition, then they would be allowed to do that, but it wouldn't look anything different than what's already there, or what else is allowed in a single family zone. So if you look on the right-hand side, this is the land use table for mixed-use zones. And so right now, permanent supportive housing would be a conditional use under mixed-use neighborhood, and under mixed-use general would be a permitted use. And then for community housing services, it's a conditional use permit for mixed-use neighborhood and mixed-use general. And this is all under the agenda packet as well. I just kind of wanted to point out what that would look like in the code. Co-living housing, this is, the mandate is to allow this in multifamily residential or mixed-use zones. So this is what we're proposing. So in the land use table for multifamily residential, adding the use of co-living housing as a permitted use. And then also in the mixed-use land use tables, allowing co-living housing in mixed-use neighborhood and mixed-use general. So I have the city zoning map on the screen here because I just wanted to kind of go through the different questions on what different types of housing can go in each zone. So if we're looking at just co-living housing, If you if you want to look at, I don't know if my cursor's going to work here. Let's see if it'll work here. Yes, you can see it, right? Okay. So the lighter purple, this is mixed-use neighborhood, and this is where co-living housing will be permitted. Also in the kind of darker purple, that is where it's mixed-use general, and that's where co-living housing can go as well, as a permitted use. And then in the yellow area, that is our R7 residential zone. And that is where permanent supportive housing can go as either a permitted use, and then community housing services as a conditional use in R15, which R15 on this map is this orange, darker orange color. Emergency shelters can only go in areas that allow hotels. So that is basically all the commercial areas. So commercial areas in town would be, this lighter pink is tourist commercial. They can go there. General commercial is this pink area. They can go there. And then also in downtown commercial, the red area, they can go there as well. So if there's any questions about different zonings and different housing options, I can answer that now. If there's not any questions, I can move on.
So I just wanted to interject. I had asked Anita to really break down the different types of housing in the different zones, because there was some concern about, well, this emergency shelter, is that going to go in my neighborhood? And the way this code is written, it can only be where a hotel is done. So I just want to make sure it's clear. Okay, I just want to make sure, because some of that supportive housing, it's no different than an adult family home. We have them in our community today. You wouldn't know any different because it looks like a single family home. And so if you have questions, please ask. This is the opportunity.
Tony, you have a question? Yes, I do. Your mic's not on.
Thank you. So on emergency housing, there are developments for affordable housing. They might be 40 units, and they might reserve 1 or 2 of those units for emergency housing. Would that be allowed?
Can you repeat the question? So it's affordable housing development?
So, yes,
Okay.
Housing Hope.
Yes.
When they developed the property on Main Street, it is 49 units, and at the time they developed the property, I think 2 units were dedicated for emergency housing. The other 47 were affordable housing, but they were for long-term rentals.
It depends on the zoning. Was it in mixed use?
Yes, I believe that's mixed use.
So I believe that would be permitted because community housing services is allowed, which includes supportive housing.
But if it was in a zoning that did not allow emergency and it was multifamily, is there any multifamily that does not allow? I guess my concern was like here, there's a development, 95% of the units are dedicated to other things besides emergency housing.
Emergency housing or permanent supportive housing? Permanent supportive housing is allowed in all residential areas, so yes, it would be allowed.
But emergency
housing? Let's see.
Something that where the tenants are allowed to stay there for 30 days or 60 days.
Yeah, let me just go back a couple slides to, let's see, the definition of community housing services. Let's see. So yes, emergency shelters are defined under community housing services. And I believe that most, let me go back to the land use table. Yes, so community housing, so it would depend on if they're outright permitted or they would require a conditional use permit. But to answer your question, yes, they would be allowed. It just depends on what process you would go through. Either it's outright permitted or requires a conditional use permit.
Thank you.
Then I have a question, Anita.
Yes.
Are natural disasters included under that? I don't think I saw it, but
I
like in the
bel-
event of the flooding, is there, I mean, I know that the Red Cross set up the temporary shelter at Evergreen State Farm.
Oh, okay.
But then some of them after still needed housing and stuff while they recoup at their previous place of residence. Some have been able to return, but others haven't. So like, are natural disasters included in that?
I would have to look up the definition. I feel like it'd be under emergency and relief services. That's a separate use. I'd have to look up that definition, but I don't think natural disasters is under the definition of community housing services. It's other circumstances. Let me see. Let me go back to the definition. Yeah, I don't see that, or let's see. Yeah, it refers to medical crises and elderly and disabled. So yeah, I can look up that definition for you for emergency, but I think that's under that one. For, yeah. Okay, so step housing and co-living housing are state mandates, but also align with the City of Monroe's housing policies and Imagine Monroe. This housing ordinance will allow housing options for the most vulnerable residents, which in turn can provide a pathway of achieving attainable permanent housing. And I do have the recommended action on the screen. I don't think I'll read the whole thing just because I know it requires a motion, so it'll be read again. But if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll go ahead and look up that other definition while you're thinking about it.
Any other questions for staff? All right, then do I have a motion to open a public testimony portion of the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you for the motion, Commissioner Bach, and thank you for the second, Commissioner Lowe. I don't believe we have any public comment signed up for that, so we will go ahead. And is there a motion to close the public testimony portion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right. Let's see here. All right, if there are let's see. Now, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you for the motion, Commissioner Lowe. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you for the second, Commissioner Bach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. The public hearing is closed. Is there a motion for action on the proposal? And we can probably get that back up on the screen, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I was trying to look at the definition
You were
for you.
going back and looking.
I had it almost memorized.
I forgot. Sorry, I'll bring that up. Can I just mention one thing? I did look up the definition of emergency housing. It's actually emergency and relief services. So it does say establishments engaged in providing food, shelter, clothing, medical relief, resettlement, and counseling to victims of domestic or international disasters or conflicts. So I think that would fit out there. The wording's kind of a little bit different, but so I believe and then there's also emergency housing definition. So I believe all the natural disasters would fit under these types of housing options. Yeah.
Thank you.
So sorry about that. I'll share again.
Is it the same one that's in our packet
Yes. Yes.
on page 12?
I can-
If anybody puts it up, just in case you can beat
Yes.
the technology.
Yeah. I think let's see.
It would be D.
Okay.
Where'd it go? Okay, I think it's right. There we go. I'm trying to make it a little bigger for you.
I'll move to direct staff to draft findings of fact and conclusions of law, recommending that Monroe City Council approve the proposed amendments to Chapter 22.12 MMC definitions, Chapter 22.18 MMC multifamily residential zoning district, Chapter 22.20 MMC mixed-use zoning districts, Chapter 22.24 MMC tourist commercial zoning district, Chapter 22.26 MMC general commercial zoning districts, and Chapter 22.34 limited open space zoning district as required by state law.
Thank you, Commissioner Balk, for reading that for us. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowe, for the second. Is there any discussion on wording of the motion? No? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
All right, let me get back to my first page here. Moving on to old business, agenda item 6.1, adoption of findings of fact and conclusions of law for pre-annexation zoning for the Davis properties identified by Snohomish County tax parcel numbers 2806-2500-407800, 2806-2500-407600, 2807-3000-300600, and 2806-2500-407700. Amy, can you talk to us, please?
All right, thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. We're here tonight to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law and make a recommendation to City Council relating to the Davis pre-annexation zoning. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that we noticed that in the agenda packet, we believe all of the attachments are in there, but we believe that a lot of the step housing attachments somehow got mixed in with this agenda bill. And so trying to figure it out, but it was not intentional. So I do have a short presentation prepared for tonight. Similar to, nothing new from our public hearing that we had last month. We just want to go back over the annexation process again really quick, just to look at the big picture. And so on the screen you can see, there's the county UGA expansion, and that is a check mark. That's already been done by the county. And then right now we're working on the next two items, which is a comp plan amendment that will come to Planning Commission soon, and then to Council in the next few months. And then there's the annexation petition process, which is not a part of what we're doing tonight. It's just another process to get to annexation. And I'll break those down here in just a minute. And then any land use applications won't happen until after properties are annexed into the city. So just breaking down the annexation process, like I said, the county did the UGA expansion, and it was approved in December of 2024, and added to the areas were added to the Monroe UGA. And then the next step was, next one. So then the comp plan amendment, like I mentioned before, it was, because the county added the area to our urban growth area, the city went forth and brought to City Council an item to expand our future land use map. And in September, this last September, City Council docketed that item. So staff is working through that, and there's reviews that go on, and then it will be finalized by July. And then there's the annexation petition process. And so the property owners petitioned for annexation, and it went to City Council for an initial meeting. And at that meeting, the City Council approved to move it forward, but with some items that needed to take place. One is an interlocal agreement with Snohomish County. We don't have a master interlocal agreement with them, so we'll need a site-specific interlocal agreement, and that's something that staff's working on internally right now. A development agreement, and that development agreement has some specific items in it that City Council wants to see. And then pre-annexation zoning, so establishing pre-annexation zoning, and that's why we're here tonight. Beyond that, they'll move on to a 10% resolution, and it'll go through the coordinations with Snohomish County, and then it could, if it moves through all of that, it would get to final annexation adoption. And then after it's annexed into the city, or if it's annexed into the city, there's many steps in land use applications, including submittal of the site plan, looking at all impacts, SEPA. It'll go through a public hearing. After it receives approval, then it can go through civil construction, building construction, things like that. So I don't know, I just want to stop there. Are there any questions on annexation processes before we move forward?
I have a quick question, just for clarification, just to make sure I am in my brain correct on this. Hypothetically, if the city of Monroe were to not move forward with the annexation into the city, then it would still, then the land would still fall under county jurisdiction under its current it's basically like R5. And so just basically all the potential project stuff could happen, but it would go through the county, not through the city?
That's correct. And that's happened in the past in other developments just outside the city. Monroe Woodlands was developed under county standards, and so they may have different standards than we do. You know, maybe they don't have the same streetscape we have, or different things like that.
And I believe that land is, and maybe this is a question for another, and it's not super important to the discussion at hand, but that land would be zoned for Monroe School District as it is currently, right? It's not zoned for Snohomish School District?
It is within the Monroe School District boundaries.
So even if we didn't go through with the city annexation, then any potential development would still impact potentially Monroe School District?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on the process? Or? Okay, perfect. So again, the properties in question are 4 parcels, approximately 23 acres in size, west of Chain Lake Road, just north of Eaglemont, and it kind of wraps around the property, the city-owned property with the water tower on it. So this is just another image of the properties with an aerial view, and you can see the gray dashed line kind of running diagonally through the property. That is the Williams pipeline, and there's an easement that runs over the top of it and expands out to protect that pipeline. All right, so like I had mentioned before, City Council directed staff to begin the pre-annexation zoning review of the site, and that's why we're here tonight, and that's what led us to this point. So next steps for pre-annexation zoning, actually I'll back up previous steps. We had the January 12th Planning Commission public hearing. Tonight we are looking for the Planning Commission recommendation. We anticipate this going forward to City Council beginning in March. They have to hold 2 public hearings. They're at least 30 days apart, and then after that there's filing, certification, and recording with the county. So the requested action is on the screen, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, are there any further questions on this? Mary?
Yes, I have a quick question. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Might not be a,
Just, sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that.
At the direction of, at the conclusion of the public hearing, you'd ask staff to prepare the findings of fact and conclusions of law, and that's what we're bringing forward to you tonight.
Okay, quick question. So if it doesn't go pass and it goes to the county, it's still in Snohomish, it's in Monroe School District. They have to pay who pays the taxes then? Like school
Property-
taxes, it would still go to Monroe. It wouldn't go to Snohomish, would it?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Walsh, we really need to focus tonight. You're
On the
really
findings of
talking
fact.
about, it's just.
On
the
what? I'm
pre-
sorry.
It's just the pre-annexation
Okay.
zoning. That's the only topic that we're covering this evening.
Okay.
And it's the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the recommendation that staff prepared at your direction
Okay.
after the public hearing. So
Thank
in the
you.
packet, there's also, Amy prepared a full staff report going through all the criteria to support the direction that you gave us at the last meeting. That's really what we need to focus on this evening.
Apologies for that. All right, is there a motion? Go for it. Yeah, read that.
Okay, I move to adopt the finding of facts and conclusions of law and recommendation to the City Council for the Davis property pre-annexation zoning and authorize the Planning Commission Chair to sign the document on behalf of the Commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowe. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Bach. Are there any, or all in favor say aye? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, moving on to new business, agenda item 7.1, which is the Planning Commission Work Program Year-End 2025 Accomplishments and the Draft 2026 Work Plan.
Thank you. And this is, I guess, a cross between new business and old business. I was before you, I don't know, middle of last summer, there was an inquiry as to where we were, a status update. So I'm actually going to start at your accomplishments for 2025. Again, Kate Tourtellot, Planning Manager, going over your year-end accomplishments and draft program of work. As a reminder, the Planning Commission, I say, is the research engine. You do a lot of the public hearing for legislative actions that the City Council will consider from a policy point of view. In 2025, as a reminder, we had a lot of state mandates that we needed to get through, and you all got through all of them. I'm still working on one that is part of your 26 program of work. But I just really wanted to highlight all that you accomplished because it was a lot. Starting with, we had to revise how we review land use applications. Those were code amendments to the revised Code of Washington, so the state's laws. It's chapter 3670B, and that's associated with the Growth Management Act. You completed that in, actually, it was before October. It went out to council and that was approved. The citywide rezone was also completed. Then following up with the accessory dwelling units that Amy brought to you, and we got through that. The next one, Leanne Barr was the planning lead. That was the conversion of structures for residential uses. One that Anita was nice enough to take the lead for was the unit lot subdivision. If you recall, we had a lot of questions on that. And at the direction of our attorney, we are actually holding back on that. It's not actually required for adoption until 2027. So we really want to make sure we're doing it correctly. And in the interim, the state legislature passed another subdivision type regulation. Well, it's a single unit lot subdivision that will most likely be adding to this particular item. So it will be coming back to you probably late 2026 into 2027 to meet that mandate. Anita also led the review of our commute trip reduction. And again, that's for any jurisdiction that has an employee that has 100 or more employees who begin work between 6 and 9 a.m. There are certain requirements to encourage employees to find other ways of getting to work than driving alone. That project required a revision to our commute trip reduction program, and then there were follow-up amendments to our actual code, and that was also completed last year. The first round, let's see here, just make sure I'm not missing anything. UDR, that one I can skip. Moving on are the middle housing, which is not what you had this evening. That is interim housing. Again, the middle housing is where we added the townhomes to the residential 7 zone, looking at cottage housing, and I believe Anita will be bringing that back to you in 2 weeks or thereabouts. So that's still ongoing. The city of Monroe is not required to do middle housing, but it is very consistent with the city's housing, what is it, HAP? What is the Housing Action Plan, there we go, and our recently adopted comprehensive plan. So the city is being proactive in areas that we think is appropriate for a community of this size, so that will be coming back. And then the comprehensive plan implementation, so you might remember we were looking at the adding housing to the general commercial zoning district along US 2. That is one of the recommended policies in the comprehensive plan. And then the other one was, how can we encourage densification or intensity of land use while protecting historic buildings in the downtown core? And so those projects we had hoped to begin last year. They're getting pushed out, and tomorrow night, is it the strategic plan? Or is that the
City Council is considering it.
Yeah, so the City Council, this is already identified on their work plan, so I'm hoping we'll get a little bit more guidance. Which one are we going to work on first? So I'll keep you posted on that. And that was delayed. And then, and I can't remember if we told you this or not, but the applicants who were interested in, or the PUD that was interested in the airport property, they not only withdraw their application for the development agreement, but they also withdrew their application to amend the comprehensive plan. So the no changes are planned for the airport property. And that covers it for 2025. So it was, I'm just thankful, thank you to you again for hanging in there with us for a lot of relatively dry material. Okay, so for 2026, tonight you're working on, this is the introduction of your program of work. Typically, as a reminder, the City Council actually adopts the work that you will review in 2026. Typically, they consider that at their second work meeting in February. So we've got a little time. If you have questions or concerns, or how come we're not looking at that, we might be able to bring this back to you in 2 weeks and still meet the timeline for council. Again, the unit lot subdivision is on hold right now, but we might pick it up before the end of 2026. I am so close to finishing the draft initial amendments to the critical areas regulations. Again, this was a requirement for December of 2025, and what I run into is I'm basically rewriting the code, and the biggest changes for the city is in 2019 was the last update, but there are new requirements around streams or riparian management zones, and that's really been a learning curve for me. So I hope to get that to you, if not by the end of February, back in March. Middle housing will be coming back to you. The again, the phase 2 of the comp plan, and again, I'm stating, we are waiting for direction from City Council as to will it be downtown or the US 2 corridor first. Leanne has already, I think, come to you just to give you a heads up that we are doing phase 2 of the Unified Development Regulation Code updates. And again, this one is, the code was rewritten in 2019, and as just like an engine, as you are working with it, you're realizing you have to fine tune it. And so this is the second set. The first set was errors, corrections, typos, very, very specific changes that we needed to make to the code. This one is, we have all these new definitions and our land use tables don't match. So you're gonna have a lot of work of trying to figure out what is the appropriate one. And it's probably gonna take you a good 6 months to finish that. From my point of view, that's an exciting project because you will actually have input on what you see in the zones moving forward. And then moving on, Anita will be returning with the multifamily tax exemption program. This one we put on hold in late 2024. Again, this is, it's got several levels, and it's really trying to encourage multifamily development. But for our community, the question was, where is this type of development to occur? So that's where the project was put on hold. And then a couple of things that may come up, I'm not 100% sure. The Parks Department currently is under contract to do an urban forestry plan. That may provide some guidance to us for a future tree preservation program. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, as I've talked about before, is the city has to do a climate change element to the comprehensive plan by 2029. That might be part of it because those requirements are to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and there's a lot more in it that. So anyway, I put that on here because that's a maybe. And then the other one, the two bottom ones are the ongoing. You will see the capital improvement plan, and again, that is the financial tool for public works projects. I'm hoping this year will maybe be a bridge. We're trying to come up with a more efficient process. So it may be we'll start it in August and it will be adopted with budget, but I'm hoping in the next couple of years we'll get it more aligned with the comprehensive plan. So more to come on that. And then our annual comprehensive plan amendment process, as Amy alluded to earlier, we are already in the process of amending our comprehensive plan. The City Council set that docket, which is just a list of things that we're looking at, back in September of '25, and adoption should occur by July. And then that process starts again. We accept applications from the public and different city departments through the end of June, and then that list will go to the City Council. They'll figure out what the Planning Commission will look at in 2026. And then we've kind of got, I call it the parking lot, but below the actual listed items are a few more. I've got the ones highlighted that we have to do for compliance with the state. There's one in 27, one in 28, and one in 29. The big ones are the climate change in the comprehensive plan. We're also going to be required to update our shoreline master program. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions. Is there something that you thought you would see, like to see?
I've asked this every year that I've been on commission about what's the downtown master plan. Did I see somewhere that the city has changed, like, I don't know if it was not priorities, but is there a different plan than updating the downtown master plan, or?
So I'm gonna answer this with Lance's assistance. So I have phase 2 of our Monroe 2044 comprehensive plan that was much more specific to how do we encourage development along Main Street while retaining the character of the buildings. And so that was the piece I'm working on. As for the actual downtown master plan.
Yeah, and as you're probably aware, this has been on work plans in the past. We had it tentatively for 2026. As you're probably aware, the city terminated the contract for budget reasons with economic development coordinator, who was going to be the project lead for that, along with the EDAB group. So at this point, due to no longer having someone in that role, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to push it out into next year. We could possibly do some, what I would refer to as kind of strategic code amendments that might address some issues, but really the focus, I think, from an economic development standpoint, with the code amendments is going to be focusing on North Kelsey. So unfortunately, we don't really have the staff resources to go and start and do the full downtown master plan update.
Okay. Because it was last updated in 2008, correct?
It's been a while.
Yeah, so we're coming up on pushing it out and now
know.
gonna get up to 20 years.
Yep.
And the downtown is defined in that master plan since 2008 as the heart of Monroe. And a city, by definition, you can't function without a heart. So if that's what the city is calling the heart of Monroe is downtown, and I've said this every year I've been on planning commission, that I think it needs to be a part, and I understand there's staffing, but that staffing issue hasn't been there for the last, 3-4 years. So anyway, that's just my thing. I would really, really like to see that somehow in some form be on the work, whether that involves planning commission right now, or if it's a city council thing, just to make sure that this community knows that there's a focus on downtown and that it is the priority of the heart of Monroe as defined within the current downtown master plan. Because until that updates, that's the definition. If the city is going to go a different direction and it's not going to be defined as the heart of Monroe anymore, then it would need to be updated in order for that to be the case. So I've been here since 2017, and the downtown, when I'm down there, it usually makes me happy, but then there's bits and pieces that it just makes me sad that we're losing businesses. And yeah, we've had some new ones come in, which is awesome. But I also know, being somebody who's got I have a small business and I have products downtown, and I see how downtown is struggling across the board. And you've got retail that relies on the restaurants, and the restaurants that may be struggling right now. And so that is something that I really, really would like to see on our work docket as soon as possible. So, anyone else? Commissioner Bach?
Thank you. I also like us to move forward in looking at that, but I also realize that there are budget constraints. But there are many topics that comes across our desk that affect downtown. Off the top of my head, the first thing I think of is the multifamily tax incentive. And I think maybe one of the things we can do, since we don't have the budget to dive into it, is make sure we put a little red flag on those issues that are going to come across our table to address that will have a significant impact on downtown, so that as we review those ordinance and such, that we are cognitive on how that will impact downtown, and make sure that we, not by error, do some impact that has a negative effect, and by deliberate, we make decisions that have a positive impact on downtown. But the comprehensive update, I wouldn't mind if it happened last year. Thank you.
I think Mary was first. I think so.
Having a small business downtown, I do feel I can say a little bit about it. We feel like we're being a little bit pushed back and ignored, and we're kind of, talking to each other, the business owners, trying to figure out how to improve our downtown area, but we do need the city to be there to kind of help us a little bit and guide us which way you guys want us to go. I would hate to see it die down. And if you drive downtown now, there are a lot of empty buildings down there, and I hate to bring it up, but we're having a lot more homeless people down there. We get customers that come in and, sometimes are worried about the homeless person out front, and we're kind of left out there just trying to survive on our own. And that's fine, and we try to stick together as a community down there because we're kind of trying to survive. That's all I can say. And I would love to think of a way to bring more businesses down there and bring more foot traffic, so I would hope the city wouldn't ignore the downtown area too long, because I agree with you, a downtown area is the heart of a city, no matter what. People just love a downtown area. I feel our downtown area, it's beautiful in during the holidays. I love the lights. I love it, just the way it feels like, the feel of it is just different. If we could get that feeling and keep it all year round, it'd be great. So anyways, thank you.
Well, so I would say that because also community development is involved with EDAB, which is the Economic Development Advisory Board. And through that board, there is a downtown, a merchants association, I don't know if they officially call themselves that, who have been looking at events and other things that can happen in the downtown. For example, the flower crawls, that's coming up, and that's one of the things. So there is an opportunity for downtown business owners to be involved in that group, and I can send you some information about when they meet, and I think it's a month on a monthly basis, but I could get you that information. I will say that we've been lacking some participation in that group.
Okay, thank you. I'll let them know. Thank you.
Carla, do you have something too? Oh, hit again. There you go.
I don't really have too much of a question, but I guess a clarification. Is the reason it's kind of like paused, I think pause is the right word, is it due to budgeting issues?
It is, yes.
Okay, thanks, that's what I just wanted to clarify.
Any other recommendations for the work program? Something you wanted to see or questions on what's on there? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Going back to my page 1. Alrighty, moving on to agenda item 8.1, which is the Community Development Combined November and December monthly report from 2025, and that is Hannah.
Hi, everyone. Hello, commissioners. So we decided to combine the November and December monthly reports into one because we didn't have many meetings in December. So we will just start at the top with the pre-application meetings. There were 2 pre-apps in the month of November. One was for the MKC plat, which is a proposed 14-lot plat off 191st Avenue Southeast. And another was for a new trailer with utility connections at the existing RV sales lot there off of Main Street. There were 2 pre-application meetings in the month of December, one for converting a church into a residential use, and one for a new business to purchase the building, add bathrooms and a storefront at 135 East Hill Street. That's the current Crash Champions. That's there behind Geno's and Papa's. The project highlight was the Garibaldi plat. This was very exciting for us. All of the building permits for the 90-lot Garibaldi plat have been issued. This project started as a preliminary plat in 2018. Civil improvements were approved in 2022, and the final plat was recorded in February of 2024. And this project was a big one for us. It was the largest plat since 2014 with Eaglemont Division 1. I think Eaglemont Division 1 had this one beat by like 20 lots. So I know I handled a lot of those building permits, and it was a big undertaking, so we're very happy to see that homes are being built there. Moving on to the project page, there have been some updates since you last saw this. Under preliminary plat review, you'll see the Trombley Heights preliminary plat. It's a 49-lot subdivision off of 191st Avenue Southeast, and it would be a mix of attached and detached housing. There's the Petrick ADU off of 171st Avenue Southeast. Under preliminary binding site plan, there's Park Place Townhomes off of 177th Avenue Southeast. It's 55 attached single-family homes in the mixed-use general zone. Under site plan review, we have a couple new ones there. Kaizen Flats It's a 75-unit townhome project off of Blueberry. This is that big empty lot that's currently mostly blackberry bushes right now, right there at the corner of Kelsey and Blueberry. We also have the Michelob construction project. It's a new maintenance building in the industrial district. Here are our building permits for November and December. The updates from building is our building official has been really engaged in code changes and proposals at the national and state level. So we're trying to get ahead of it so our customers don't get surprised. And in January, we have started performing building inspections on Fridays. We didn't have Fridays for a while there, but now we're fully staffed up and ready to go. So Monday through Friday, building inspections. Code enforcement cases. And here are the new business licenses for the month. This is November and December combined. I think December starts at L&M Sunday 3. Under comprehensive plan updates, the only real update is, as Kate mentioned earlier, the PUD application for a comprehensive plan update has been withdrawn. And not really any updates under code amendments or annexations. Any questions?
No questions? Thank you, Hannah.
You're very welcome.
Moving on to agenda item 9.1, and that'll be discussion by commissioners and staff. We can go ahead and start with Mary.
Not much to say, except for we're excited yesterday that the Seahawks won in our family. So that was a great day and going to be a great week. Go Hawks, thanks.
Carla.
I agree. It was good. We're Hawks fans, so it was a good time. I was actually out of town, but the hotel we were staying at did a big outdoor screen with the game on it, so it was fun. And I don't really have anything else that's been going on that's pertinent right now.
We are also really large Seahawks fans in our house, so we had, I don't know if I mentioned this at the last meeting when I mentioned the playoffs, and apologies if it's TMI, but my oldest son was born 9 months after the last win. I had to inform my family and friends that was not going to be repeated, but
Where's your commitment?
we are big Seahawks fans in our house. So we had a couple, if anybody was watching, we had a couple local guys from the Monroe High School class of 2020. Efton Chisholm III is a wide receiver for the Patriots. He was inactive for the Super Bowl, but I think he was still down there with the team. And then Benson Boone made an appearance. He was in the celebrity flag football game that was on Saturday. He did a concert with another performer on Thursday night down there that was ticketed for people to participate in. And then he had a commercial that's now airing everywhere because it aired during the Super Bowl, and now Instacart, and you can pick your bananas now if you didn't know, if you want less ripe or more ripe. Benson Boone let us know that. So awesome to see some local faces and all that. So that's it for me.
Next week starts spring training, and hopefully we'll have a World Series championship. And that would be very exciting. When I was young, about 16 years old, I lived in the New York City metropolitan area, and the New York Jets won the Super Bowl, and the New York Mets won the World Series, and the New York Knickerbockers won the NBA championship. So my only disappointment, we don't have an NBA team to have that potential. That's it.
All right, we'll move to staff. Anita, do you have anything for us tonight?
Nothing to report, but gotta love the dark side. That's the name of the defense. So.
Absolutely. Amy?
I also don't have anything to report, but yeah, also excited.
Kate?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Lance?
Just one thing, I don't know if it's been in city announcements, but Deborah Knight has officially given her retirement date. And so her last day will be June 1st of this year. And the city has started recruitment for a new city administrator, and we posted that job announcement. I believe it was on Friday, so it's a sad, good for her. We're wishing her well, but more change and transition for the city. So, but we're optimistic that we'll get some good candidates for the city administrator position.
Thank you, Lance. Hannah?
I only have a couple of things. So we have had someone apply to join you guys on the Planning Commission, and we're just moving forward in the interview and paperwork process. So hopefully that works out and we're fully staffed again. Also, next week is Lunar New Year, and it's very exciting. Last year was Year of the Snake, so it was like shedding away. I feel like it's very apropos for you guys, because it was like you're done with the comprehensive plan and you're moving on to new things, and then this is Year of the Horse, where you like run forward and you like really charge and gallop into good changes. So just really excited to see what the coming year has for all of us.
Thank you, and I'll backtrack briefly because I got too excited about the Seahawks conversation. Tomorrow is a special election day, and there are items on the ballot for Monroe. There are 2 propositions from the Monroe School District on that ballot, so make sure you get your votes cast. Drop your ballot at the drop box at the library, or there's other drop boxes in Snohomish County if you're in other parts of the county more often. They do recommend, because of USPS postage times, to not mail it at this time, just because they can't guarantee that it'll be posted in time. So get that dropped at the drop box, and yeah, by 8 p.m. tomorrow. And if there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting.